Welcome once more to Little Bydom and a further presentation with regard to Hornby's locomotives and rolling stock. Now this is closely linked with mental well-being. Now I can speak from very personal experience, having suffered from depression on a couple of occasions during my life. And having a creative, complex, inventive, personal hobby can be a very great boon. Certainly in times when I've not felt so well, I've not been able to do it always, but when I'm ready, turning my attention to altering, detailing, improving items like these has been an immense strength for me. And I can assure you, I recommend it to anyone. That, by the way, if you heard it, is a real train. Now this is not a how to do presentation, it's a sort of what I've done presentation. A presentation with regard, as I say, to Hornby's locomotives and rolling stock. All of these are wonderful models at source, and all I've done is just improve them, renumber, rename, weather, detail, that kind of thing. And over the course of this short presentation, I'll be showing you the kind of things that can be achieved in the main by people who are not necessarily highly experienced, highly skilled. All it needs is motivation and a very, very good starting point. These are a very, very good starting point. A wonderful starting point for keeping yourself mentally well and mentally doing things. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to be starting with Hornby's latest, Hornby Doublo in fact, latest Princess Coronation. An homage in a way to that great name from the 1950s. However, any sort of link, comparison with Hornby Doublo has long gone with a model of this quality. It's wonderful. I say a comparison in a way. This has a die-cast body, which means it will pull an enormous amount, which you'll see very soon. I've detailed it, and by doing that, it no doubt removes any collectability. It won't appeal to the collectors anymore. I've added real coal. I've changed the coupling. I've fitted better bogie wheels and added all the bits and pieces, including the front steps with triangular supports. Etched nameplates as well, though I have kept the loco's original identity. Now, very shortly, this will go off to my good friend Jeff Haynes, who will varnish it and weather it to make it a little bit more realistic. It's very realistic as it is, but it could do with just a little touch of making it look more natural perhaps. And that homage to Hornby Doublo, isn't the packaging wonderful? Oh, my resident moth. This eventually will be used on Graham Nicholas's Shap layout, and that's on a bank, and it will have no trouble whatsoever in hauling whatever train he chooses to put behind it. And if you look at the still pictures, you will find that many Hornby locomotives are already in use on Shap. Let's see this marvellous locomotive in motion. Now the train this is going to pull is rather fanciful. It's made up in fact of two of my ordinary little by them rakes. I say ordinary because one of them is a Pullman train, so this ensemble is highly unlikely, but what I hope it shows is how sure-footed this latest model from Hornby is. Now some of the carriages you'll see in tow will feature later on in the programme. They're Gresleys or Pullmans, which I have adapted, modified, improved on the original Hornby product. But there you go, effortless. Normally, I don't really use too many RTR locomotives because pulling many heavy kit-built cars, they struggle. And many carriages in this rake are kit-built and heavy. What more can I say? Complete master of its work. A splendid locomotive. Now, obviously, little by them being Eastern region, most of the locomotives you're going to see here are based on that region, XL and ER. You'll have seen a couple of images, well, 4 in fact, of Southern region locomotives and a Great Western locomotive. They're all modified Hornby, but I have to work in the main with what I have in front of me. And what I have in front of me are Hornby's A3 and A4, both absolutely beautiful models. What have I done? Well, both have had their identities changed for personal reasons. One has become 60054, complete with its A4 boiler. How's that for detail? Well done, Hornby. And the other has become Dwight D. Eisenhower, 60008. Both have had quite a few improvements. There goes another train. We'll just wait. Not because they're wrong. It's just that I like to do a little bit. They've had new bogie wheels. Tom Foster has weathered 60054, Prince of Wales, and 60008, Dwight D. Eisenhower, has had a complete repaint from Ian Rathbone. Now that definitely isn't within the capabilities of the raw beginner. But altering the names, numbers, bit of weathering, it can be done. Let's see this pair running. There are a couple of Hornby Mark 1s running in this rake, making up part of the Flying Scotsman. Any RTR locomotive might struggle with a very, very heavy kit-built train, but on a plastic rake, which this is mainly, they're very, very happy indeed. A plastic rake containing several Hornby Mark 1s. Indeed, if you look at the last car, it's a BSO, and you'll see other Hornby cars, Mark 1 cars, later. A favourite Hornby loco of mine is the B1. The best RTR B1 ever, in my opinion. All I've done with this is change the bogie wheels, different couplings, I really cannot stand tension locks, and a new chimney. And it's been rather well weathered by Tom Foster. Such is the B1's beautiful running that I use it very often on Little Bytham's pickups. And here it's about to pick up a short rake of wagons and take them on, perhaps to Essendine and then to Peterborough. Here she sets back onto the short rake, consisting in part of 2 Hornby horse boxes and a Hornby brake van. The horse boxes were weathered by my very good friend Richard Wilson, and I weathered the brake van. Weathering is very therapeutic and very good for mental health. Anyway, off goes the B1, next stop Essendine. The horse boxes will feature later in this presentation. Who would have thought that a Thompson Pacific would ever be available RTR? Until this year, when along came Hornby's A22s and A23s. This is the former 60501 Cock of the North, now changed into 60502 Earl Marshall. A little bit of detailing, as noted, the change of identity, some lovely weathering by Jeff Haynes, and an absolutely first-class powerful locomotive. And please note in the tray, several of the vans, wagons, etc. made by Hornby. Weathering just brings everything to life. Another loco nobody ever thought would ever become available RTR was the Thompson rebuild of the O4, the O1. Years and years and years ago, the only way to get one, like this, was to scratch build. And then we had the likes of the little engines kit. Very nice indeed, especially when weathered. However, need we have to make anything like this now? Here's Hornby's wonderful O1. All I've done with this is slightly alter it and weather it. It's better than my scratch-built one and my kit-built one. Notice the weathered horse boxes again, as the O1 trundles its way on a full-length train, fully laden, entirely in command. This really is a most beautiful runner. As I say, just a little bit of detailing. Obviously add a crew and ensure it has lamps, real coal, that kind of thing, fire irons. That's all that's needed. Absolutely first class. At the risk of repeating myself, the latest Hornby models are very fine indeed, and here is the latest manifestation of the Mark I, the BCK, the brake corridor composite. All I've done here is to weather the roof that disguises the roof ribs. I've also weathered the underframe. I've added a gangway, whisper it, from Bachmann, a tail lamp, fitted the dummy Buckeye and some pipes, and it really does make this a most attractive layout carriage. Yes, some of the detail is moulded on compared with, say, the Bachmann one, but as a layout carriage, it's more than adequate. Another thing to note as well, the wheels now are true round, concentric, with consistent back-to-backs. Time was when I used to change RTR wheels all the time. Not now. My passenger trains, like the freights, are made up of a mixture of kit-built and modified RTR, including Hornby. This rake is a real mixture. Some Bachmann, some kit-built, some Hornby, some modified, some almost unaltered. But please, note the tail lamp. Essential for any realistic train. I admit to being ambivalent about Hornby's gangway Gresleys. They ride well on excellent bogies and decent wheels, but the tumble home shape isn't right. Why? I'm not sure. I hope they'll be revisited in time. However, they do make decent layout coaches, as I hope you can see here. All I've done with this pair is to varnish them and weather them. And in many cases, you'll see in the still shots, and here, I've taken them a stage further. Now this is an MJT sided one. I've carved off the original Hornby sides and fitted brass MJT ones. And I hope you can note the tumble home is a much better shape. The loco, by the way, is a modified Hornby B12. It complements the lovely carriages very well, but just a pity about that wrong tumble home. Never mind, on a layout. Do you really notice? There are several of my Hornby conversions in this train, this very heavy train, and I think, at least I hope, they look the part. The shape of the tumble home is much improved, and they ride very, very well. You'll note on the stills these Hornby Gresleys running on the main line behind a Klondike C2, but their main role on Little By Them is running on the M&GN, and they do very well. Pullmans, the finest vehicles ever to run in this country on our railways. Mine are made up exclusively from Hornby products, the originals with brass sides and new bogies, but the latest K cars are absolutely superb and render the need to make or modify Pullmans completely obsolete. That said, there's still something nice in producing your own vehicles, like these, especially when they've been painted so well by Ian Rathbone. These have brass sides on top of original Hornby donors with MJT bogies. All, by the way, have had new couplings, my own make, and concertina paper gangways from Modeller's Mecca. Though there might be some problems with the Hornby gangwayed Gresleys, the Hornby gangwayed LMS carriages are rather wonderful. Notice the last one in this train. Just weathered, detailed slightly, new couplings, and of course, a tail lamp. The maroon Hornby 57-foot Staniers look rather jolly as well, and there are several in this train, the Leicester, towards the rear. New couplings, concertina gangways from Modeller's Mecca, a bit of weathering, bit of detailing, and there you go. They make excellent layout coaches. A tail lamp as well. You'll have seen the Southern vans, the four-wheeler and the bogie van, passing behind the A22. And here we have those horse boxes again, and a couple of other Hornby wagons. And in this passing train, some vans, a bogie bolster, and a rather nice pair of Shell tanker wagons, all suitably weathered. Weathering, as I say, is essential. And now to conclude this piece. It's been re-edited by my dear friend Chris Walsh, and I thank him for that. The main gist, of course, is Hornby, and it was made with Hornby, for Hornby, to link in with mental well-being. And a model railway hobby, a creative hobby, is ideal for good mental health. One point in the presentation, I refer to tank wagons as being Shell. I ought to be able to read. They're actually ICI, so please forgive that. But it's not just Hornby. Bachmann, Hellian, Oxford Rail, Accurascale, etc. All of those make excellent RTR products as well. Products that could be improved in the way that the Hornby ones have been done in this presentation. There's a Bachmann A1, for instance, a Bachmann A2, Hellian's O22s, O23s. Well, O22s to come, I've already made one into an O22. I'd like to thank Simon Kohler and David Harhouse and his team at Bachmann and the others for giving us such wonderful model railway stuff, far better than anything before. But the main reason for my finishing here is to extol the virtues of keeping one's mind busy, keeping depression at bay, working on something like this, working as a team, working with friends. It is a wonderful way of keeping one's mind busy and making sure that good mental health is maintained. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching.